Hello guys, today we are commencing another interesting topic of information security lecture series, which is cryptography. And today's session is focused on first part of cryptography, which is cryptographic services, and there are four parts of it. Special credit goes to Cisco Networking Academy for this series, and I use it for educational purposes only. This is a brief summary of this chapter on cryptography. We start with the cryptographic services, followed by basics of integrity and authenticity, confidentiality, and we conclude with the public key cryptography and a quick recap of this chapter. When we consider secure communication, it relies on three primary objectives: authentication, integrity, and confidentiality. Authentication will guarantee that the message is not forgery and does actually came from who it claims to be, while integrity will guarantee that no one intercepts the message and alter it, which is similar to a checksum function in a frame of network communication. Also, confidentiality will guarantee that if the message is captured, it cannot be deciphered by unauthorized party personnel. Now let's clear those three objectives a little bit in detail. Authentication guarantees that the message is not a forgery, not altered during the communication, and it does actually claim from who it came to be from. For instance, authentication is similar to a secure PIN for banking at an ATM. The PIN should only be known to the user and the financial institute, and also the PIN is shared secret that helps protect against forgeries. Data non-repudiation is a similar service that allows the sender of a message to be uniquely identified. Non-repudiation is the assurance that someone cannot deny the validity of something. Non-repudiation is a legal concept that is widely used in information security and refers to a service which provides proof of the origin of data and the integrity of the data. This means that the sender or sending device cannot deny having been the source of that message. It cannot repudiate or refute and the validity of the message sent. As we earlier discussed in lecture 1, data integrity ensures that messages are not altered in transit. The receiver can verify that the received message is identical to the sent message and that no manipulation occurred. For instance, the European nobility ensure that data integrity by creating a wax seal to close an envelope. The seal was often created using a signet ring. An unbroken seal on an envelope guarantees the integrity of its contents. It also guaranteed authenticity based on the unique signet ring impression. This is also what we discussed back in lecture 1. Data confidentiality ensures privacy so that only the receiver can read the message. To achieve data confidentiality, one can use the data encryption mechanism, which is the process of scrambling the data so that it cannot be read by unauthorized parties, and readable data is called plain text or clear text, while encrypted data is called ciphertext. A key is required to encrypt and decrypt a message. The key is the link between plain text and the ciphertext. Now within these upcoming few slides, we will focus on how a ciphertext is created, what methods are available for creating one, and what type of cipher methods used over the centuries. As I earlier mentioned that three components of cryptography are authentication, integrity, and confidentiality. Cryptography is both the practice and the study of hiding information. It has been used for centuries to protect secret documents, such as at the time of the Great Roman Empire, Julius Caesar. Today, modern-day cryptography methods are used in multiple ways to ensure secure communications. To create a ciphertext by encrypting or create plain text by decrypting, we use a specific algorithm called a cipher. A cipher is a series of well-defined steps that can be followed as a procedure when encrypting and decrypting messages. There are several methods of creating ciphertext, namely transposition, substitution, and one-time pair, which we will discuss in few minutes. Cryptography is used to ensure the protection of data when that data might be exposed to unauthorized parties. Cryptography services are the foundation for many security implementations, and over the centuries, various cipher methods, physical devices, and aids have been used to encrypt and decrypt text, including Cytel, Caesar cipher, Virginia cipher, Jefferson encryption device, and well-known German Enigma machine. This Cytel cryptography method was used by the Spartans in ancient Greece. In this method, both the sender and the receiver of the message had identical rods. First, the sender wrapped a paper that will use to write the message on. Then write the message line by line as usual message. Then when delivering the message, it unwraps and then it becomes meaningless, as you can see here. Then once the paper with the message written on it received by the receiver, that person used the rod as a den, wrap the message paper and recreate the message so that only the person which has the identical rod of the sender can decrypt and read the message correctly as the final image shown here. It is used a method called transposition cipher. When the time of Julius Caesar, he used a method later called Caesar cipher to communicate between him and his generals. His cipher code was the shift by tree rule. Caesar encrypted his messages by replacing every letter by shifting by 3 letters. For instance, instead of the letter A, he used the letter D. Instead of the letter B, he used the letter E. And finally, instead of the letter Z, he used the letter Z. And when message received to his generals, they knew that decryption key is the shift by tree, such as instead of letter D, they use letter A, and so on. And then recreate the original message and read it correctly. The image shown here is an original device used in this Caesar cipher so that Caesar and generals can easily encrypt and decrypt the message without memorizing the pattern. So this is a method called substitution cipher. In 1586, Frenchman Blaise de Vigenère described a polyalphabetic system of encryption. It became known as the Vigenère cipher. Based on the Caesar cipher, it encrypts plain text using a multi-letter key. It is also referred to as auto key cipher. This method is also one of the substitution ciphers. This is the table used to both encrypt and decrypt on the Vigenère cipher. We will try to be clear with an example soon in this lecture. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, invented an encryption system that was believed to have been used when he served as Secretary of State from 1790 to 1793. It is the same as Caesar cipher. The only difference is when encryption, Caesar used to shift by tree forward of the alphabet, such as letter A replaced by letter D, and Jefferson used the reverse of it, such as A replaced by letter X. It is also a substitution cipher. Arthur Scherbius invented the Enigma in 1918 and sold it to Germany. It serves as a template for the machine that all the major participants in World War II used. It was estimated that if 1000 cryptanalysis tests 4 keys per minute all day, every day, it would take 1.8 billion years to try them all. Germans knew their ciphered message could be intercepted by allies, but never thought they could be deciphered. But the Alan Turing, a British mathematician, and his team was able to crack the cipher and lead to the end of World War II. Honestly, I am a fan of studying on World War II. Several movies were created based on this interesting story, and the Imitation Game 2014 is a good one. If you have not watched it, I suggest you should give it a try too. In transposition ciphers, no letters are replaced. They are simply rearranged. For example, spell it backwards, Scytale, and Railpen cipher. Modern cryptographic algorithms such as the Data Encryption Standard DES and 3DES still use transposition as the part of the algorithm. Let's see how the Railpen cipher is in action. We have the ciphertext here as the first image here. It is meaningless and unreadable. To decrypt this, we can use the Railpen cipher with the key of tree. Then we rearrange the ciphertext as the second image here to form a rail and a fence with the key of tree. See here, between the first letter and the second letter of the first line of ciphertext, there is a space of tree for another 3 letters. Then it filled with the second and third line letters and hence form the pattern rail and fence. Then we read the message along the red line mark here starting from letter F. Now we can create the plain text message as shown in the third image here. Substitution cipher replace one letter for another. In their simplest form, substitution cipher retain the letter frequency of the original message. Examples are Caesar cipher and Eugenia cipher. As I earlier described, this is how the Caesar cipher is working. For the encryption, the key is shift by tree. The first image shows the plain text, and we can encode it by the key of tree. Therefore, the letter A becomes the letter D and letter B to letter E and so on. Then encryption message becomes this. This wheel consists of two wheels, the outer wheel and the rotatable inner wheel. Shifting the inner wheel by tree in the clockwise direction from the initial A to A, B to B state. The A becomes D, B becomes E and so on for encryption. For decryption, one should rotate the inner wheel by tree in the anticlockwise direction from the initial state. The Vijayana cipher is based on the Caesar cipher except that is encrypt text by using a different polyalphabetic key shift for every plaintext letter. The difference key shift is identified using a shared key between sender and receiver. The plaintext message can be encrypted and decrypted using the Vijayana cipher table. For example, a sender and receiver have a shared secret key called secret key. The sender then uses the key to encode the message blank is attack at dawn. Now let's see how this encryption is working using this Vijayana table. Vijayana table is an identical table consists of English alphabet A to C horizontally and vertically throughout the whole table. For the encryption, first we write down the message in the blocks and then underneath the encryption key. Now from the outer line base, for the first combination F and S, we can find the X in the middle of the intersection. In the same manner, for the second combination L and E, the cross point is the middle of P. Likewise, we can encrypt the plaintext message by substituting each letter. It doesn't matter we first look at the horizontal line, then vertical line, or vertical line, then horizontal line. Since this table is symmetric one, both ways give the same result. For example, we can find F in the horizontal line, S from the vertical line, then we get X at the intersection point. If we find F in the vertical line and S from the horizontal line, we get the X at the intersection. Now for the decryption, we can do the reverse method that uses encryption. We can read one letter from the horizontal or vertical main lines and another letter from the inner line. For example, in the first combination of S and X, we can find S from the horizontal main line and we can go down that column until we find X. Once we find X, then we can go towards the main vertical line and find the letter F. The same way E to P is L and C to C is A. Again remember, this table is symmetric and it doesn't matter whether we start from horizontal or vertical lines. It's end up with the same answer. That is how the Vigenère cipher is working. Now a little exercise. Pause the video, try to decrypt the following message: V, E, C, I, H, X, E, J, Z, X, M, A using the decryption key TCP/IP and comment your answer below. In 1917, Gilbert Burnham, an AT&T Bell Labs engineer, invented and patented the stream cipher and later co-invented the one-time pad cipher. Burnham proposed a teletype cipher in which a prepared key consists of an arbitrary long, non-repeating sequence of numbers was kept on paper tape. It was then combined character by character with the plaintext message to produce the ciphertext. To decipher the ciphertext, the same paper tape key was again combined character by character, producing the plaintext. Each tape was used only once, hence the name one-time pad. As long as the key tape does not repeat or is not reused, this type of cipher is immune to cryptanalytic attack because the available ciphertext does not display the pattern of the key. These are the machines used to create the one-time pad paper tape keys. This method indeed is one of the most secure methods because for each message sent, a new key is generated and there was no way to find a pattern to crack the communication. But there are several difficulties inherent in using one-time pads in the real world. The first one is that key distribution is challenging. Have to send the key and the ciphertext separately using two different methods, and to decrypt the message key is necessary. The second one is that creating the random key is challenging for a human, and if a key is used more than once, it becomes easier to break. Computers, because they have a mathematical foundation, are incapable of creating true random data. It always follows some equation or a pattern, hence not truly random. RC4 is a one-time pad cipher that is widely used on the internet. However, because the key is generated by a computer, it is not truly random. Cryptanalysis is the practice and study of determining the meaning of encrypted information, cracking the code, without access to the shared secret. This been around since cryptography, because if someone wants to encrypt the data for secure communication, then there is always some other party who wants to crack the messages and see what is inside. There are several methods for crack the codes, including brute force method, ciphertext only method, non-plaintext method, chosen plaintext method, chosen ciphertext method, and meet in the middle method. During a brute force attack, an attacker tries every possible key with the decryption algorithm, knowing that eventually one of them will work. All encryption algorithms are vulnerable to this type of attack. The objective of modern cryptographers is to have a key space larger enough that is takes too much time, hence money, to accomplish a brute force attack. For example, the best way to crack Caesar cipher encrypted code is to use brute force. There are only 25 possible rotations as Caesar cipher uses the English alphabet. Therefore, it is not a big effort to try all possible rotation and see which one returns something that makes sense. On average, a brute force attack succeeds about 50% of way through the key space, which is the set of all possible keys. A DES cracking machine recovered a 56-bit DES key in 22 hours using brute force. It is estimated it would take 149 trillion years to crack an AES key using the same method. Hence, AES is somewhat less vulnerable to brute force attacks. During a ciphertext only attack, an attacker has the ciphertext of several messages, all of which have been encrypted using the same encryption algorithm. But the attacker does not know the underlying plaintext. So here attacker only knows the ciphertext. The attacker could use statistical analysis to deduce the key. These kind of attacks are no longer practical because modern algorithms produce pseudo-random output that is resistant to statistical attacks. During a non-plaintext attack, an attacker has access to the ciphertext of several messages and knowledge, underlying protocol, file type, or some characteristic strings about the plaintext underlying that ciphertext. The attacker uses a brute force attack to try keys until decryption with the correct key produces a meaningful result. Modern algorithms with enormous key space make it unlike for this type of attack to succeed, because on average an attacker must search through at least half of the key space to be successful. During a chosen plaintext attack, an attacker chooses which data or plaintext the encryption device encrypts and observes the ciphertext output. A chose plaintext attack is more powerful than a non-plaintext attack because the chose plaintext might yield more information about the key. This attack is not very practical because it is often difficult or impossible to capture both the ciphertext and plaintext. During a chosen ciphertext attack, an attacker chooses a different ciphertext to be decrypted and has access to the decrypted plaintext. With the pair, the attacker can search through the key space and determine which key decrypts the chosen ciphertext in the captured plaintext. This attack is similar to the chosen plaintext attack. Like the chosen plaintext attack, this attack is not very practical. Again, it is difficult or impossible for the attacker to capture both the ciphertext and plaintext. The meet-in-the-middle attack is a non-plaintext attack. The attacker knows that a portion of a plaintext and the corresponding ciphertext. The plaintext is encrypted with every possible key, and the results are stored. The ciphertext is then decrypted using every key until one of the results matches one of the stored values. Both encryption and decryption happen here until matching or meet in the middle. This is an instance of cracking code, and this method is called frequency analysis. The best way to crack the code is to use brute force, because there are only 25 possible rotations. The effort is relatively small to try all possible rotations and see which one returns something that makes sense. A more scientific approach is to use the fact that some characters in the English alphabet are used more often than others. This graph outlines the frequency of letters in English language. For example, the letter E, T and A are the most popular. This is how the frequency analysis method is in action. The English alphabet is used more often than others. E, T and A are the most popular letters. J, Q, X and Z are the least popular. Caesar ciphered the message in the first image. The letter D appears 6 times and the letter W appears 4 times. Therefore, it is probable that they represent the more popular letters. In this case, D represents the letter A and W represents the letter T. By cracking this far, then it is really easy to identify the key and decrypt the whole message. So, cryptology is the combination of cryptography and cryptanalysis. Cryptology is the science of making and breaking secret codes. It combines cryptography, development and use of codes, and cryptanalysis, breaking of those codes. There is a symbiotic relationship between the two disciplines because each make the other one better. National security organizations employ members of both disciplines and put them to work against each other. There have been times when one of the disciplines has been ahead of the other. Currently, it is believed that cryptographers have the edge. Ironically, it is impossible to prove an algorithm secure. It can only be proven that it is not vulnerable to known cryptanalytics attacks. There is a need for mathematicians, scholars, and security forensics experts to keep trying to break the encryption methods. Cryptanalysis is most used employed by governments in military and diplomatic surveillance. Enterprises in testing the strength of security procedures. Authentication, integrity, and data confidentiality are implemented in many ways using various protocols and algorithms. The choice depends on the security level required in the security policy. There is a comparison between several cryptographic algorithms used over the years. The security of encryption lies in the secrecy of the keys, not the algorithm. All encryption algorithms were based on the secrecy of the algorithm to achieve confidentiality. With modern technology, algorithm secrecy no longer matters since reverse engineering is often simple. Therefore, public domain algorithms are often used. Now, successful decryption requires knowledge of the keys. How can the keys be kept secret? Let's discuss it in the upcoming weeks. Please comment your valuable ideas and suggestions down below the comment section regarding this video. It helps me a lot to improve. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to NetIQ Learn and stay in touch with me until we meet next week. Bye bye.